Yeah, deeds. Oren here. I know it's not August yet, but you know what? Close enough. We're gonna do a video about the Lions. I'm gonna do my official predictions for how their season's gonna go. And I'm not just gonna go win loss, but I'm gonna try to predict the score, and I'm gonna kind of give a rough prediction of some of the highlights from each of those games. And I'm going to predict how they're going to do in the postseason if they make the postseason. And I'm going to try to predict any awards any particular players might win. So let's get into it. So we start with the first game of the season, prime time Thursday night against the Kansas City Chiefs, where I unfortunately have them losing to the Chiefs by a score of 38-10. But it's an exciting game. Both offenses do quite a bit. Both defenses show some flashes. There's interceptions by the likes of Kirby Joseph, as well as I think his name is Kyler Gordon, their sophomore corner, as well as some sacks from Karlaftis, their sophomore edge rusher. And Hutchinson has a big game too with a few sacks. James Houston has a sack, while Patrick Mahomes does evade them several times, kind of like Jalen Hurts from last year's game, and is able to do some magical plays for touchdowns like he always does. And but the defense for the Chiefs come up with a few key plays late in the game, and that's what ultimately makes the difference with that game. So 38-30 Chiefs for the first game. The Lions start the season with a loss, and Roger Goodell sips a martini and goes, the Ford Hamp, you will not be undefeated this year. Anyways, the game two, Seattle Seahawks. We all think this is going to be a close game. Like, two teams are trying to do similar things. You know, revenge game for the Lions for what Seattle did to us last year. But then it turns out to be a blowout by a score of 45-17. The likes of Montgomery as well as St. Brown, they have two touchdowns each in that game. Hutchinson has another big game with some key stops on their running backs, such as the Michigan State running back that they drafted last year. His name escapes me at the moment. Kenneth Walker III. That's right, that guy. Because Geno Smith, since he got the contract he was looking for, he's not as motivated to play, so he won't play as good, and he won't scramble as effectively, nor will he have as many completed passes. So they'll rely on Kenneth Walker III as well as Zach Charbonnet, but they won't be able to do anything. And as a result, the Lions will be able to blow out that game. So 45-17 Lions in game two, the first game of Ford Field. And then Atlanta, another blowout game, 40-14. St. Brown has another huge game. He has 3 touchdowns this time. Kirby Joseph has another interception in this game. Probably going to keep mentioning Kirby Joseph because he's become the interception machine. And I really don't know how the new cornerbacks are going to play out yet, but it'll be exciting to see what they do. I'm expecting them to be able to bat away a bunch of passes, and but we'll see what they're able to contribute for sure. I also think this is the game where Jack Campbell really comes into really kind of gets the spotlight. Like, he gets a sack in this game. He even gets an interception in this game, and he does a lot of good behind the scenes work that we as casual fans don't quite get. But he'll be chasing down the people running with the ball, such as Bijan Robinson, as well as Desmond Ritter, who I expect to be playing in that game. So 40-14. Detroit Lions in that one. And fun fact, I will be at that game. So that'll be interesting to see from that perspective how things go. And I'm hoping to get one of those 3 signs that you see them holding up when the Lions are on defense and they have third down. And then I'm going to hang it up as a souvenir for the back wall here. So that's my goal with that anyway. All right, 4th game of the season. This is at Green Bay, and this is another primetime game. This one is more of a defensive game. The last 2 times they played Green Bay, they've all been defensive games, and I don't really see that changing given the nature of how those games tend to go. And I have them winning by a score of 22-15 in this game. This is one of those games where the Lions defense plays worse than we expect, because they only give up one. The way what I'm predicting is they give up one touchdown, 2 field goals, and then a safety. And then we're going to spend the whole week after like talking about what is going on with the defense and that sort of thing. But you know what? They do their best they can. Christian Watson is probably going to be the reason why they score the majority of the points that they do, as well as why they are able to move the ball downfield. He honestly is the NFC North player that I am the most cautious about. He really came onto the scene in the second half of last season, and I really think he's probably going to be that one player in the NFL that is going to emerge. So he was somebody I wanted the Lions to draft a couple of years ago, but and things didn't work out that way, obviously. But you know, the Lions, you know, get it done. They get ahead when they need to, and their defense, while they play sloppy, they make key stops when they need to, and we get a sigh of relief from that. And St. Brown is the reason why we score the points we do in that game too. So you're going to hear me say St. Brown a lot. I have some interesting predictions about him as we go on. So again, 22-15 Lions. Game 5 versus the Carolina Panthers. This one will be the Lions winning 30-23. Now, last Christmas Eve, the Panthers had their way with the Lions, and I kind of figured it was a couple of factors that you've heard me talk about before. The first one being that the Lions, because of the weather, they had to travel to Carolina one day earlier than that they were expected to, and that probably affected their practice schedule and kind of messed things up for them. And they were already planning on playing on a Saturday anyway, so it's like they had a short week that they weren't prepared for, and then that kind of bit them there. And then the other factor for why they didn't do so well was because they had Fatu Melifonwu starting in that game at safety, and he was the guy in charge of trying to bring down the running backs, and he failed miserably in that game. But luckily, we have the likes of Brian Branch, who specializes in that type of skill. So that should be able to help neutralize that. And then, you know, other players like C.S. Johnson and the other new secondary players who I'm forgetting to mention right now. I think Sutton and Mosley, assuming he's healthy again. So I'm predicting and hoping that everybody stays healthy. So I don't even want to go into injuries, knock on wood. But anyways, some of the rookies, such as Gibbs and Laporta, will also have touchdowns in this game, and they'll be contributing with the yards. Really, everybody is kind of contributing, whether it's like yards or key plays, and that's the beauty of what the Lions' offense is going to be, because there's going to be several targets, and you never know which one of those targets is going to get the ball passed to them, and each one of those targets will be able to do some yards after the catch, breaking tackles, all that sort of stuff. So, but St. Brown will have at least another touchdown in that game, but I think Gibbs and Laporta will each have they'll each have a touchdown in this season. They'll probably have one earlier than that, but for this one, I'm thinking that they probably will. So anyways, Lions win 30-23. Game 6 at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is the one game that the Lions should be able to win. And if they're as good as I think they're going to be, then it should be a blowout win. And honestly, this is a bit of a revenge game for me against Baker Mayfield, because if you remember last Christmas, he was playing for the Rams, and he clobbered the Denver Broncos. The Rams represented the Lions draft pick, while the Broncos represented the Seahawks pick. So if Baker Mayfield didn't help them win, the Rams win that game, Denver Broncos win that game, then the Lions would have been ahead of the Seahawks in that this past draft. They would have been able to draft the cornerback, the Witherspoon, out of Illinois instead of the Seahawks. So still a little bitter about that, but you know what? What's done is done. And I blame Baker Mayfield for it. And the score I'm predicting in this game will be 49-6. Montgomery and St. Brown will have multiple touchdowns each in this game, and it'll just be a complete blowout. And Tampa Bay won't even get a touchdown, just 2 field goals. And yeah, this will be the game that puts everybody on notice for the Lions offense, and that it's something special for this season, and that they could set records and it becomes a storyline. And then Game 7 at the Baltimore Ravens. This should be the first game where the Lions get Jameson Williams back. I actually have them losing to this game by a score of 15-10. But I do have an interesting prediction, because I have Justin Tucker, the kicker of the Ravens, missing a field goal in this game. And that gives us Lions fans a sigh of relief, especially those of us who watched the last time we played the Ravens and how our hearts shattered into a million pieces after watching Justin Tucker from 66 yards out kick the ball onto the crossbar, doink, and then in through the goalpost for that game-losing field goal for the Lions, game-winning for the Ravens. But we feel relieved when we see him miss a field goal, but yet, so it feels a little bit more like a win, but still, it's really a loss, because Baltimore Ravens, even though it's all about Lamar Jackson, they have some other weapons on offense that kind of keep them in the game. But I think Baltimore's defense, with the likes of Kyle Hamilton, they are effective in shutting down what the Lions do offensively there. So I have Lions losing 15-10 in that game. Week 8 versus the Las Vegas Raiders. That's Monday Night Football. We beat them by a score of 35-24. The likes of Devontae Adams will have a decent game. He'll be a lot of the reason why their offense gets the points that they do. And we're in a league. We're in that era where wide receivers are the keys to successes for a lot of teams. So that's kind of why I'm thinking wide receiver now for a lot of these things, and that's why they're getting paid so big. But I do have Jameson Williams getting at least 1 touchdown in this game, and then St. Brown will get a couple more, and Montgomery will get a lot of yards in this game as well. So, Montgomery is kind of like the Jamal Williams of last year, so he's kind of one of the main guys that we're depending on to, get the job done on the ground and, get the touchdowns when we need it. And same with St. Brown and that sort of thing. And we're going to see more of that in this game. So 35-24. And then we have the bye week during week 9 of the season. And then week 10 at the Los Angeles Chargers. I have them winning by a score of 41-31. And Justin Herbert puts up his best effort, but once again, the Lions offense, they're able to control the clock with the running game when they need to, and they're able to put up points when they need to. And it's kind of back and forth, but at a certain point, late in the third quarter, early fourth quarter, Lions jump out just ahead, and they're able to run down the clock and, stay on the field, and they keep Herbert off the field there. So St. Brown gets another bunch of multiple touchdowns in this game. Same with the rookie reads like Gibbs and Laporta and that sort of stuff. And then whatever the kicker is doing in that game to get the field goals, extra points, he's doing all that too. So whom I think is going to be Riley Patterson. He's the kicker that I wish they would have kept instead of Siebert last offseason. And I'm glad to see that the Lions realized that with how successful he was doing in Jacksonville. And now they traded to get him back. So I'm thankful to see that. And I think he's going to win that job. And I think he's going to do quite well for us. So week 11, this is versus the Chicago Bears. They win this game 44-17. This is very similar to the second to last game of last season when they blew them out. And I see no reason why they can't do that the same again. I mean, Justin Fields will probably do some stuff on the ground. Maybe his new weapons around him will be able to help out, but nowhere near as much because Hutchinson and Houston and the other people on defense, like Aleem McNeil, they're going to be shutting him down because you know how defenses have a spy for that dual threat quarterback that likes to run with the ball. The Lions, they have two spies for half of the field. They made Hutch and Houston that, and that's how they were able to neutralize them. And I think they'll do similar stuff to that. And I think Aleem McNeil will be a factor in this as well. And I suspect Aleem McNeil might not be like the nose guard type anymore. I think Martin will probably take that over at this point in the season, and McNeil will be like that 3 tech whose job is to, you know, not to necessarily to stuff the run anymore, but to get after the quarterback. And I think he will be successful at that. Think back to when we drafted Aleem McNeil and how good we were able to see him, how good he was at being quick. He's a former center fielder in college. And I think he has the quickness to be able to do everything that we wanted when we were talking about defensive linemen for the draft. And I think he was our answer for that all along. And we just had to draft somebody to replace him as the nose guard type. And I think that's what's going to happen there. So that's my tangent with that. And, you know, a lot of scoring there. St. Brown again. At this point in the season, St. Brown is in the national media talks for potential MVP because he's doing that good at scoring touchdowns and making key plays. And he's getting up there in points and that sort of thing. He's becoming the star of the Lions offense, which the Lions offense is already getting people talking about one of the best of all time. And St. Brown is the star that's making it happen. And that's what everybody's talking about at this point of the season. So anyways, Chicago Bears, we beat them 44-17. Now, week 12, Thanksgiving week against the Green Bay Packers. You see me looking over here because I have the sheet over here as a reference. So, you know, it's a casual Lions fan video. So give me a break here. Anyways, this one's going to be a nail biter. They beat the Green Bay Packers by a score of 21-20. Green Bay is pissed and they're coming at the Lions. They're controlling most of the game, but the Lions come back later on and they're able to beat them. And they get out ahead in the fourth quarter, and then Green Bay gets a touchdown to get it to 20, but they fail the 2-point conversion, and that's the game there. And Christian Watson is the reason why they're able to. Aaron Jones does a thing or two there, but doesn't do too much because the Lions' rushing defense is better. But Christian Watson, as I said, is the big threat there too. And then who was that? The Oregon State tight end that the Packers drafted. He does a little bit of damage too with some yards and some key plays, but mainly it's Christian Watson. Musgrave, that's his name. That's who I was thinking of, Musgrave. But anyways, it's we're not focusing on our families because we're focusing on this nail biter of a game, and the score winds up being, like I said, a 21-20. Lions win. And then week 13, they head to New Orleans. This is where they see Jamal Williams, and this is where, like, Dan Campbell's homecoming, so to speak, to New Orleans, even though Sean Payton isn't there, and I'll talk about him in a minute. And I have them winning this game 38-27. And Jamal Williams, he's fired up. You know, he punishes the Lions' defense for quite a bit, so he's able to get a few touchdowns on them. But, you know, the Lions' offense at this point is just too good. Gibbs has a big game in this one, and as well as Jamison Williams. They get a couple of touchdowns each, and then because at this point everybody's like so focused on St. Brown that they're forgetting about the other guys, and it's like so many different targets, you don't know which one to prioritize covering. And then the Lions win that game 38-27. And then we go to Chicago Bears again. And then this time they put up a much closer fight, similar to what they did when we went to Soldier Field last year. But this time the score is 34-31. You know, Justin Fields does really well. but we do just a little bit better. And Jamison Williams has another big game here. He's breaking out the second half of the season. St. Brown does a lot of good stuff, like trick plays, even special teams does some fake trick plays and that sort of stuff, and that helps during key situations. And the Lions win that one 34-31. Now, week 15 versus Denver Broncos at home. This is where Dan Campbell meets up with Sean Payton, who he was coaching under as the assistant coach with the Saints for 5 years. I think there's going to be a psychological thing going on where Sean Payton gets inside Campbell's head. I hate to say it, and he's just going to outthink him and outsmart him throughout the entire way. And the Denver Broncos will beat the Lions 38-22. And hot take. Oh, what's his name? So Wilson will not be the quarterback for the Broncos at this point in the season. And that will make it a little bit more embarrassing that they lost that by that much. But, the usual suspects are the ones that get the touchdowns, but Broncos are just able to out scheme and just out confuse the defense, and they just blow us out at home 38-22. And at this point, the Lions' record is 11-3, and they're one of the top teams in the NFC. So they spent most of the first third of the season with one loss, and then they got the second loss against Baltimore, and then they were on a winning streak for a while, and this becomes their third loss. But they're still in the thick of the race for the top seed in the NFC. But this becomes kind of a key critical game for if they don't get it. Week 16, this is the beginning of the end. This is the first game against at Minnesota Vikings. This is a very important game because Minnesota's in the thick of it, sort of. The Lions are the clear favorites to win the division at this point, but Minnesota is, right there trying to get into the playoffs as well. And we beat them by a score of 36-28. And the likes of Justin Jefferson are, doing damage against us there, as well as Osborne. And then Kirk Cousins does whatever he's able to do. But, St. Brown and Montgomery are able to do the damage, and they're able to play their hearts out, and they're able to help put up points on the board when we need them to. So we win that game 36-28, and we can smell the NFC North. We can smell the playoffs. At some point, they've probably already clinched the playoff spot. This would probably be the game that they clinch the playoff spot, if I had to guess. So, but I didn't really think about predicting that. But anyways, week 17 at Dallas Cowboys. Figures they would schedule it so that our most difficult and most important and impactful playoff games and playoff teams, they're against these tougher opponents like the Dallas Cowboys. I have them losing this game by a score of 27-17, and the likes of Micah Parsons really are able to figure out the O-line and is able to disrupt them when he needs to. And they did a good job against him in the last game, but Parsons just figures out the offense and is able to get through. And then there's a lot more interceptions thrown in this game than usual. I can't think of their star cornerback from the Cowboys at this time. I want to say Diggs, but I could be wrong. But he has a big game against us there, and we do what we can in that game. But Dallas just has that's one of the games that Dallas has control of, and Dallas is the team that everybody's talking about, like every year, that they're going to do well in the postseason, but then they choke in the first round from some stupid play, and then everybody laughs at them. And this year is no different. So again, they lose to Dallas 27-17. Then the final game of the season versus the Minnesota Vikings. This is to clinch the division. We already clinched the playoff spot. Now we clinch the division. with this win, and they win this game 27-20, and it's a nail biter type of game, but special teams helps out with this game, and Jamison Williams gets the go-ahead touchdown in the fourth quarter, and then the Lions just like run the ball, run the clock out, and then they keep Jefferson off the field when they need to, and then the defense comes up with some big plays, especially Hutchinson, and 27-20. And then here's some other predictions I have, because at this point, the Detroit Lions would finish with a 13-4 record. They win the NFC North. They win the division, and that's awesome. And they clinch the number 2 seed in the NFC because the Eagles clinch the number 1 seed in the NFC. But the Lions get the number 2 seed, but San Francisco's right there with the number 3 seed. And then the Lions actually finish this regular season with 541 points, which is the most points a team has scored in a regular season since Kansas City in 2018 when they scored 565 points. So that's a big accomplishment for the Lions offense there. And then they only give up 391 points, which is 36 fewer points from the previous year, but it's not made to be as big of a deal because it's a storyline that this year's NFL, like there is so much scoring, and that the defense, like an average defensive game, is elevated in terms of points. So the Lions, the amount of points they give up looks average now compared to being bad. Plus, the Lions will have a lot of sacks and a lot of interceptions, and those will be the key factors and key times, and those will be the key factors in how they win those games. And then postseason time, they get the New York Giants, who also made the postseason, and they defeat them in the wild card round. They defeat them by a score of 31-10. Montgomery has a good game. Gibbs has a good game, and Jamison Williams gets a touchdown in there. I'll call that too. So 31-10, and the defense shows up, and it's a playoff win at home. And McNeil does a good job once again of stopping Saquon Barkley, and Hutchinson gets some sacks, and it's an all-around celebration. But then in the divisional round, the next round, they get eliminated by the San Francisco 49ers by a score of 24-16. Yep, 16, because they actually go for two two-point conversions, and they are successful in both of them because that's how aggressive Dan Campbell is, and that's the score. But the likes of Christian McCaffrey are proved to be too much for them, and all the linemen and Deebo Samuel proves to be too much for them as well. And the defense for San Francisco is able to stop the Lions offense in the key moments when they need to, thus the elimination in the divisional wild card round. But we take the steps forward that we need to as a team. We win the division, we win a playoff game, and we score a crap ton of points on offense and a lot of exciting stuff on defense, like the likes of Kirby Joseph, Aiden Hutchinson. They prove to be clutch players. Ali McNeil gets up there, and he is a Pro Bowler as well. I got Dan Campbell winning Coach of the Year, as well as Aiden Hutchinson winning Defensive Player of the Year, not just rookie, but Defensive Player of the Year. And then Amon-Ra St. Brown, with how he and Montgomery are responsible for the majority of the scoring this year. But St. Brown does so much scoring and especially in key plays and in blowout games, that people look at him like the Derek Jeter of the NFL, and he gets votes for MVP. He doesn't necessarily win it, but he gets a significant amount of votes. So that's overall what I'm thinking is going to happen this season, and it is a great time to be a Lions fan. So to recap, I have them losing to the Chiefs, winning against Seattle, winning against Atlanta, winning against Green Bay, winning against Carolina, winning against Tampa Bay, losing against Baltimore, winning against the Raiders, winning against the Chargers, winning against the Bears, winning against Green Bay on Thanksgiving, winning against New Orleans, winning against Chicago, losing against Denver, winning against Minnesota, losing against Dallas, and finishing the season winning against the Vikings. They score 541 points and give up 391 points. The Lions clinch the number 2 seed in the NFC. They win their first round playoff game and against the New York Giants, and then they get eliminated in the divisional round by the San Francisco 49ers. And then and they also win the NFC North during that process. Dan Campbell wins Coach of the Year. Aiden Hutchinson wins Defensive Player of the Year, and Amon-Ra St. Brown gets some votes for MVP. So that's my predictions. Feel free to let me know what you think in the comments. Training camp is almost here, guys, and we're getting closer and closer to the season again. So as always, go Lions, one pride.